All right. Good morning, guys. Somebody just tagged me in a video from Jordan Mortensen talking about Rogue Indivisible, and I'm excited to find out what I've been up to. Jordan Mortensen seems to be one of Chris Barnett's lackeys. I know I've seen him as like the author of a couple articles, I think, on some things I've seen from Chris Barnett's like 10 different news channels. We'll throw that up in air quotes. Um, so yeah, I started to watch this and figured that I should just go ahead and film a live reaction instead of, trying to just go back and forth between videos and stuff like that. So I'm excited to find out what I've been up to lately. So let's jump in.
The new recall effort of our Josephine County Commissioners is paid for and organized by none other than Rogue Indivisible. They will claim that they aren't a part of the recall and that it's led by mostly Republicans. This video will
All right, so jumping in already. So some facts about Rogue Indivisible. I basically really gotten started with Rogue Indivisible officially in June for the No Kings protest. There were a few people that were kind of barely keeping the group alive, just as like a Facebook discussion group, but they weren't having meetings or really doing anything like that. And I'm sure that those people are going to be mentioned, so they will get the credit they deserve for sure. But as far as fundraising efforts, we've raised about $500 to date. We do have another check for $500 that came from a sponsor, but we don't have our bank account situation figured out yet, so we can't even do anything with that. But we've raised about $500 in cash, and then that $500 check, and we still have most of it. We did have to spend some money for the Good Trouble event that we did at the park. We rented the big green space in the park where like Boatnik and those sorts of things happen for the Good Trouble event that we did. But yeah, we aren't funding anything. We're not really even funding ourselves at this point. So we get donations from people in the group. Usually it's going to be water or just things like that to make the event go. We did sell a little bit of merch. The Dwayne Yunker Rogue Indivisible airborne pins went pretty well at our last event. So yeah, we're going to keep doing stuff like that. But yeah, we do not have money to be funding a recall. And we're not officially involved with it. I set up and take down tables at the post office a few days a week. And if somebody doesn't show up for their shift, then I'll do some signature gathering as well. But yeah, that's about the extent of my involvement. Let's keep going.
prove otherwise. They sell people on grassroots values, talking about core principles such as protecting and strengthening democratic institutions, working with people in marginalized communities, and stopping corporate takeovers and defunding vital social programs.
All of
But
that.
what does that really translate to, and what are they about? The national group, Indivisible, whose local branch is called Rogue Indivisible's sole purpose is to resist the agenda of President Trump. Bottom line. They focus on mobile.
So just to kind of clarify, Indivisible doesn't exist as like an entity that then spreads itself out from the top down. The way that Indivisible exists and works is that they have created kind of a national platform, and they put on these national days of action. And then there's groups that form and reach out to the headquarters or whatever to organize under that banner. And that's what we've done. So we're just a small group of local people here to Josephine County, and we organize under that banner for a few reasons, mostly just so people understand what it is that we're trying to do, because Indivisible has garnered a lot of national attention. And so we want people to, instead of just coming up with an entirely different name, which we could, we want people to be able to look at this and be like, okay, I've heard about this Indivisible thing elsewhere, and so yeah, I'm down with that. So I want to join, these people here. And we don't really even have like membership. We have a Facebook discussion group, and that's about it. We have a few officers elected to positions. Like I'm the chairman of Rogue Indivisible. Melissa is the vice chair. Rhett is the treasurer, and we actually have an open position for secretary right now. Jordan, if you want to apply.
Mobilization of leftists to target Republican leaders by holding rallies and demanding recalls, as well as stopping right-wing policies. In short, they want to stop the deportation of illegal immigrants. They want men in women's sports. They want to keep the homeless people ruining our city and our parks. They want bigger government, bigger taxes. They think Tina Kotek and Gavin Newsom are doing a great job. They advocate for gender-affirming care of our children and pornography in our libraries. This group is led by...
All right, so that was a bunch of stuff. So generally speaking, we support marginalized people. We support people. So this president and his regime are actively targeting marginalized groups. And to us, it feels a whole lot like, well, first they came for this group, but I wasn't part of this group, so I didn't say anything. So instead of being the people that didn't say anything, we are saying something. So we're standing up to this regime. We aren't actively, looking at specific policies and be like, oh, that came from a Republican, so we don't want anything to do with that. Let's fight that and whatever. That's really not how this works. This group isn't entirely made up of Democrats. This group, for example, I was a libertarian for the longest time. So proudly voted for Ron Paul, I think 3 times for president. Gary Johnson once. And then, I forgot her name in 2020, but I liked her a lot. She was great. Jorgensen, maybe? I think so. Anyways, so my background is much more libertarian leaning. However, during the 2024 election process, I was really taken in by Tim Walz. I think he's just a great guy, being a school teacher and, part of just all that stuff. I just thought he was a really great guy and somebody that I aspire to be like. He's a great ally to the LGBTQ community and just a great dad and just a good dude. But yeah, as far as like, we just don't go after Republican things because they're Republican. Oh, I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that we support that is from a Republican. Just because MAGA has really co-opted the entire movement, the entire party, and everything that seems to be coming, down from on high is crap that's targeting marginalized groups, and we're not down with that.
Matt Spurlock, Richard Flora, Vicky Palmerton, and Kurt Collins here in Grants Pass.
So, yes. So, Richard Flora, Vicky Palmerton, and Kurt Collins, they were kind of keeping the group going as a Facebook group. So this is really, to me, like the third iteration of Rogue Indivisible. So Rogue Indivisible started back in 2016, 2017. I wasn't part of it. I knew of its existence, but I didn't really see them out much or interact with them. And then once COVID hit, the group just kind of fell apart. And then when Biden got elected, it didn't feel like there was as much to fight against. So at least that was, the case for me personally. And then as we got closer to the 2024 election, Trump is back again after, leading an insurrection and all that kind of stuff. And so the group started to wake up again. And like I said, it really just existed as a Facebook group. And then after Trump was elected, we started. Well, those three started to plan some of the rallies, like the hands-off rally, in particular. I think there were a couple of those that I attended. I think I attended one of the two, maybe both. I don't remember. And I wasn't part of the group at all. In fact, I hadn't met any of them, anything like that. And then I did talk to some of the people that were with the Josephine County Democrats. And so I met up with them at their Liberal Vibes thing and started talking to them. And personally, I was, disappointed at the lack of action that was happening with the Democrats. And it's really not their fault. Their goal, their mission is to get Democrats elected rather than to resist. And I was looking more to resist. And so that's when somebody introduced me to Vicky. And, she was talking about, wanting to revitalize Rogue Indivisible. And she decided, well, I guess the three of them decided to hold an election at the end of June, just after the No Kings protest. And there were a few of us that ran for the different elected positions. So there was the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary are the four positions that, are elected. And so about 40 of us showed up to Tom Pierce Park at the end of June and held an election. And I won chair, Melissa won vice chair, Rhett won treasurer, and Kelda won secretary. But she's had to kind of step down, or at least step back for a bit. And so that position is now open. That's kind of our history.
The propaganda is on every channel. They think we stupid like the truth is just too hard to handle. Put on your camo, it's a culture war and load the ammo. They want Antifa ruling everything like it's Seattle. And they want anyone who's fighting to be dead and canceled. They want rainbows in the classrooms and 15 different bathrooms and white guys that hate black dudes. They want war, they don't want peace. They want fentanyl in our streets. They want borders to be weak. I swear the devil lives in California. He a politician. He passing bills that bring chaos and division. Yeah, the devil lives in California. Should be in prison. He got horns, but he tries to keep them hidden. Cause the devil is a Democrat. And we don't play that. They say that. They love America.
Okay, so I've heard this song before, and maybe I'll go back in and splice the response that I've heard because it's pretty hilarious. But to address some of the things that were shown in the video there, yes, I was there during the filing of the paperwork. And yeah, Rick Flora is kind of like I guess he would be like the secretary of the recall group. Basically, what he does is organize the volunteers. So, I mean, there's not really officers or anything in the group. So, but that's the main thing that he does. So, like, we have 3 specific locations that are going every week. So, the post office is pretty much every day. The main office on K Street is every day, except for Sundays for both of those. And then the growers market on Saturday mornings. So pretty much just making sure that we have enough people in those locations at all times to be able to collect signatures whenever people come find us. But yeah, I wasn't involved in organizing the filing of the paperwork. I wasn't involved in drafting the petitions. I wasn't involved in selecting who would be recalled. Yeah, I wasn't consulted. So, yeah.
We know it ain't that. The devil is a Democrat. And we ain't with it, we ain't switching. Y'all are tripping. I guess God just built us different. They get celebrities to do they talking. They get mansions while they cram it all into apartments.
Yeah, so as far as the I am the deep state stuff goes, I don't even know what commissioner said it. I'm assuming Chris Barnett, because he's, kind of the conspiracy loudmouth of the 3. But yeah, they said something about the Josephine County deep state, and that's hilarious. I mean, Grants Pass is a town of like 30,000. The entire population of the county is like 88,000 people. There's no deep state that I'm aware of. So, I mean, maybe I'm going to learn something here. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm the president or the chair of Rogue Indivisible. My Dwayne Younger video. And, we're local. This is us, man. So you obviously don't seem to know what Indivisible is. So we are a local group that is organizing under the banner of Indivisible. Okay, so if you haven't seen that video, Dwayne Younger accused us of parachuting people in. And I don't think that he meant that literally, but I chose to take it that way. And so that was me pretending to be a news reporter and saying, like, I am live on the scene from the library. Look at the skies. They're just parachuting people in. And our group is old people, man. Our group is 90% over 70 years old. Like, we're not parachuting anything. Yeah. Anyways. So, yeah, what is Indivisible? Let's learn together.
No Kings protests are organized also by a group called Indivisible, which is founded by Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg. They both authored a 23-page Google Doc called Practical Guide for Resisting the Trump Agenda. Some people online have claimed that they're communists, and guess, you'll never guess who donated. And I know they mention him, but $7,600,000 to that group is George Soros.
Why? Because we've seen this movie before. George Soros funded groups and others literally pay protesters, and
Okay. So, my God, this comes up all the time. So, like I said earlier, we haven't received any money from Indivisible HQ. And so $7.6 million, like that sounds like a lot, but there's about 2,000 Indivisible groups across the country. And we've been, doing days of action pretty much every month, sometimes a couple times a month, since the beginning of the year. So just thinking, like, how would that money even be spread to all the groups? Like, Jordan can do the math maybe, but $7.6 million is not that much money, especially for how big these groups are. So, I mean, you've got tens of thousands of people in these main cities, and so you're saying that they're being paid? They're paid protesters? Maybe the check's in the mail. I haven't received mine yet, and neither is anybody else in the group. But yeah, $7.6 million doesn't seem like it would go that long of a way. And also, didn't Elon Musk give out $1 million a day to like pay people to vote for Trump? Wasn't there something to that? That was probably more than $7.6 million.
Saw my friend Hakeem Jeffries decrying that I've said that, but we know that that is a fact.
George Soros. So again, when you take a look at what Indivisible is protesting, and then take a look at who is funding them, you realize that it's George Soros, a left-wing billionaire, is giving all this money to Indivisible.
Yeah, $7.6 million to a billionaire. That's like, I don't know, a tip on a cup of coffee for somebody like that. Yeah, anyways, man, who would have thought that the boogeyman would be like a 98-year-old man? Who would have thought?
To lead these protests around town. So at the same time that they're decrying billionaires in government, they're ironically funded by billionaire George Soros, who funds pretty much every lefty and liberal nonprofit and progressive cause around Washington, D.C. And across the country.
Now that we know who...
So I guess, just something else to add to that. Almost all of our events are out in front of the courthouse, and we pay exactly $0 to do that. I have an Easy Up, and I have a table that we use to like put our stuff on. I have my own sound system because I'm a musician. Yeah, it doesn't cost us anything other than like our stuff and our time to do these events, unless we do them at a place that we have to rent, like the park that I mentioned before. Yeah, so we don't really need any money to make these happen. It's nice, we want to kind of elevate what we can do and be a bit more organized, but nobody's getting paid. and it doesn't cost any money to put these on.
Who is leading the recall effort against our Josephine County Commissioners, Barnett and Blech? Let's make a few things clear. The group behind this effort, Rogue
Okay, there we go.
Indivisible, also calling...
So yeah, well, I said before that the Rogue Indivisible discussion group, that was kind of how the group existed for a few years, and those three plus me now are the admins for the page. So yeah, like, sorry, Jordan, I think I was the one personally that rejected your membership in the group. Come at me, bro. I guess you are. So
themselves, Restore Josephine County, has a list of several items that are baseless and misleading.
yes, and so sorry. Another thing in the montage that he showed was if you clicked on the Learn More button on Facebook from the Restore Joco, it went to a dead page about John West. So yeah, several people that were involved in the John West recall are involved in this recall as well for Barnett and Blech. And a big part of that is that John West is still the one that's pulling the strings here. There were just several emails that were provided by Commissioner Ron Smith, which thank you, dude, for doing your job. Because now all public records requests go through the county commissioners, which totally seems like a conflict of interest and seems like it's outside the purview of their job. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, a lot of the same people are involved with this. And basically it is John West 2.0 in a lot of ways, because John West is the one who, essentially appointed Blech to replace him. They had worked together when Blech had replaced another commissioner for some bad stuff that he said. And yeah, so right as John West is on his way out the door, he convinces the two new commissioners to axe the library. And John West is still frequently sending emails to tell these commissioners what they do, or he is no longer going to support them, and he will personally fund their recall and all this stuff if they go against him. So if there's any sort of deep state, it's John West.
Feel free to check the description of this video for more details on that. But what I have found out from my sources is that the commissioners were actually told after they were elected by the petitioner and others that they would only be in office for a little while, and that they were the ones that actually ran the county. That is known as deep state, which is a body of people.
That is known as hearsay.
Typically influential members of the government believed to be involved in a secret manipulation or control of government policy. Our newly elected and appointed commissioners decided to get rid of these rogue actors, which has led us to this recall.
Okay. So Jim Goodwin and Robert Brandis are like the two main people I know of that were either forced into resigning or were outright fired by Andreas Blech. And I don't know the reason behind Brandis at all. I know that the reason behind most of the cuts and terminations was allegedly financial, but the Public Works Department is not funded by the county at all. It's funded from the State Highway Fund. So there definitely was some sort of, coup, I guess would be the best word, to come after Brandis, who I've since learned his dad is a doctor here in town, or was, and he had been in the Public Works Department for 20 plus years. I can't tell you how many people that in the limited time that I was set up collecting signatures came in and said, I am signing this because of what they did to Brandis. So I don't. Deep state just implies something so nefarious. Like, the Brandis family has been here for a long time and is actively involved in the community. So it's the most open secret in the world, I guess. I don't know. What you doing, Yamhill?
When we discuss recalls, we should first remember the process by which they ended up in our system. Going back to the Constitutional Convention and the creation of our Constitution, there was discussion about how do we remove political officials that have committed such egregious acts that there was bipartisan support to remove them. The process they came up with we call impeachment today. During those discussions, there was great concern raised about what would happen if impeachment was used for purely...
Just one quick thing. I think saying it's a bipartisan effort is not accurate, because we didn't just have two separate parties at the founding of the country. In fact, George Washington, cautioned against that.
Partisan reasons. The fear would be that such tactics would result in only flaming the fire of political division in our society. Impeachment is the process where elected officials remove another elected official. In cases where that cannot be done, recalls were instituted. And that is the process whereby the voters may remove an elected official. The same concern should be considered when we talk about recalls. A recall for purely partisan reasons will result in only flaming the fires of political division.
Who says flaming the fires? That's dumb. Also, what is this video? It's a guy talking very slowly that I don't even know who he is, why he's involved with anything.
We should not be entertaining any recall that is based on political division only. And that is what the Lindsey Bershauer recall is all about. It must be a recall based where you have wide bipartisan support because the political official has committed criminal or seriously egregious acts and refuses to step down. That's not the case here. This will only continue to fan the flames of political division in our county. This recall is being pushed by Indivisible.org through their local chapter, Progressive Yamhill. Indivisible.org is predominantly funded by George Soros. This is an extreme left-wing progressive organization. That alone should tell you that this is a politically driven recall and not one based on wide bipartisan support.
My God, Jordan, the least you could have done was sped that guy up. Like, I understand I'm drinking coffee, but that was painful. Anyways, so who is that guy to decide, who should be recalled and when? He's a city councilor in a city that's not even like in our district. I guess it's in the same state. I couldn't even tell you where Yamhill County is on the map. Knowing what I do about wine, it's somewhere in the Willamette Valley. But yeah, so I guess this is the end of the video as far as Jordan is concerned. The recall group is mostly Republicans, but Republicans are afraid of, what their fellow Republicans will say to them. So they are, kind of on the back end of this process. So they're the ones that have been, organizing the sign, like getting the signs printed and stuff like that. But yeah, it's mostly the Democrats or progressives in the group that are out doing the work, because we're not afraid of how Republicans are going to respond. I have had a few business owners talk to me and ask me, how they can get involved, and say that they are scared of kind of the blowback that they'll receive from doing that. And so I've advised them to just kind of hang out for a bit, and we can see if we can find a less visible spot for them to be or to help in some way. Um, but yeah, I don't know. This isn't political. It's weird that, this is like an anti-recall video, but it doesn't address any of the points that were the reason for the recall to begin with. So I don't really know what the point was. I guess just to spread disinformation about me and the group that I lead. So I guess there's that. Really not a whole lot of substance here, Jordan. If you ever want to interview me and get some really good clips that you can, chop up to fun or like, prove whatever point you're trying to prove, I'm totally down for that. I'll record it too, just so you know, and I'll put out the whole thing. But yeah, so I'm down. I'm transparent. Jordan, I'm totally willing to like show you our books. I'll even show you my personal bank account and stuff so you can see the source of my funding, which is minimal and has nothing to do with Rogue Indivisible or George Soros. So yeah, I mean, if transparency is what you got, I'm totally willing to give it to you, dude. Until next time.